the last and final messenger. We live in a time that's very, very stressful for many reasons. It seems like every avenue of life is becoming increasingly difficult, whether that's the economy, family, health, mental health, maintaining our faith. And the whole situation in Palestine and in other countries as well cannot but take a toll on our emotional well-being. Right. However, it is what it is, and as Muslims, we always try to do what we are told to do by God and what we need to do based on our values. But the other day, I was reciting the verses in the 27th chapter, which talks about the story of the King Solomon and the Queen of Yemen. And that story is probably my favorite story in the Quran. But this time, something new came to me. In light of what's going on in the world, especially someone like myself who, the community depends on to lead. And I acknowledge and I see all these huge challenges that I personally feel that I cannot face. And so as I was reading these verses about the King Solomon, I imagined how the companions, that first generation of Muslims, those who followed the Prophet, they were there with him, what that story must have meant to them when they were being oppressed and persecuted. And it must have meant for them such a source of inspiration that one of my kind, Solomon, a believer, one of my kind, was so powerful, so capable, had everything he needed to engage the challenges and solve the problems. And when we're in a situation where we feel helpless, and now you're given a story of someone who is of you, who wasn't helpless, who was powerful, who couldn't be oppressed, it's beautiful. It feels beautiful. Because what it does to the mind is give us a vision of what we can be. And when we have a dream, a vision of what we can be, it allows hope to have a place in our minds and our hearts. And so long as there is hope in our minds and our hearts, there's choice. There's choice. And the human being, God created us with what? With the ability to choose. It is so integral to the human experience to feel that you have a choice. It is so rooted in our minds, in our hearts, in our humanness, that that when a parent restricts their child, removes all the choices in a certain scenario, what do, parents? What is the reaction of a child who stripped away of their choices? What do? They cry. I'm talking about an infant, a child, a toddler. They will cry. You do it to a teenager, they will rebel or disconnect. Choice is so integral to the human experience. We are not well without it. Hence, hopelessness, depression is what? Is the inability to imagine a better future for themselves. And thus they have, like, this is it. This is how it's always going to be. I don't have a choice. So they sit and they take it. And they convince themselves that it's okay. They justify their pain by saying, I deserve it. And so you can imagine listening to this story in a time when this generation or those companions were being oppressed, persecuted, weak, helpless. They don't have institutions, they didn't have resources. Man, that must have felt so beautiful. And for us today, we could do that with the story of Solomon. But I want to take us a little bit closer to home, closer to today, to the 1920s. This decade is called what? The Roaring 20s. When you think about the Roaring 20s, if you Google the Roaring 20s, it's kind of the first phase of the whole women liberation movement. And I put it in, air parentheses here, or air quotes. Right? However, there was something else roaring in this decade. There was a community in America we're very familiar with, who had been oppressed for centuries, who felt isolated from their very religion, Christianity. They used to call it the white man's religion. They were oppressed institutionally. They were oppressed on the streets. They were made to feel alien. They were made to feel inferior to the black community. And they didn't want it anymore. They were done with it. You can imagine their experience at this moment is similar to the experience of the companions, not in terms of belief, but in terms of just the social structure. They wanted to dream of something better, and they did. And Allah puts things together. A man by the name of Fard Muhammad, or they call him Farad Muhammad, happened to bump paths with another gentleman who would become Elijah Muhammad. Have you heard these names before? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Fard Muhammad is actually of South Asian descent, I believe. He introduces Islam to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And in Islam, he finds something that resonated with him. He read the story of Moses, the man who was oppressed by the Pharaoh, and his people were subjugated and made inferior. He saw in that the plight of his own kind, of his own people. And so he gets to work. And remember, this is the 1920s. This is not 2024. There was no NAACP. There was no Civil Rights Act. A black man is a nobody. In fact, less than a nobody. 3/5 of a human being, right? And he gets to work. And he starts calling other people. And slowly but surely, he brings together a group from the black community. And boy, these people, oh, you don't mess with them. You don't mess with these guys. They create a movement so powerful that it affects America today. Till this day, today. One, they get their act together. They start dressing very appropriately. They're very disciplined people. When they walk as a group. You can see these people are serious. They're professional. They started making concepts like put black money in black hands, buy black, creating their own economy. They start to create their own way of communicating, speaking. They create, in other words, their own culture. They decided we will not be defined by another people. We will define ourselves. And apparently back in the day, a slave would take the last name of their master. This is why you have these black people, black folk who have the last name of Jones and Smith and Johnson. And this isn't coming from Africa. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, what did he say? Anybody who has the last name of their master, you change your last name to X. Hence Malcolm X. And so they put together a movement. That movement was powerful. And they saw it in Islam. However, this is called the Nation of Islam. The movement is called the Nation of Islam. However, the Nation of Islam is not an orthodox Muslim group. They're very heterodox. And while they took some concepts that have Islamic names, Islamic terms, they redefine them in ways that has nothing to do with what we know is Islam. And while the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was very good and powerful at what he did, there was also in many aspects of tyranny. And this part of our history, American history, is so important for us to know. Not because the Nation of Islam are our brothers and sisters in faith. They're not. It is incredibly important because this group of people did something that would have been seen as impossible. They penetrated culture. And I'm not talking about just American culture. They penetrated global culture. What is the most powerful culture within America? The Black culture. And the Black culture is seen around the world. In the Middle East, they now have rap in Arabic. That's not coming from the Arabs. You will find people dressed in kind of the Black style of clothing. They didn't just make that up. They're being influenced, right? How did they do that? This man was able to convince a large group of people that they needed to commit 90%, I believe, 90% of their salary to the cause. Now, as an imam, if I were to stand in front of the community and say, give 5% of your salary to the mosque, that's not going to fly. And so as a community leader, I sit and I look at this man, this movement, and I am nothing short of astonished. In fact, astonishment is not a strong enough word when you appreciate and acknowledge and look into this. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had a son who he sent to Egypt to study Islam. Now, no person lives forever, and this man is very strategic. He needs somebody to take over the movement once he passes, and of course, that's his son. So his son goes to Egypt. He goes to Al-Azhar, that great, prestigious university, Islamic university. And he's studying there. And he's sitting there listening to what these scholars are saying. He's like, this is not what Dad's saying. This is something completely different. Completely different. And he says, this is what's right. See, the Nation of Islam, they believe like the Quran was sacred to them. But you weren't allowed to own Quran. You couldn't have it in your home unless you did something so good that you were gifted it. And when you're gifted it, it was under the condition you'll never read it. For obvious reasons, right? So his son comes back having accepted Orthodox Islam. But his father is still in charge, and his father, he doesn't play games. You step out of line, it could cost you your life. And so privately, he would try and advise his father. This isn't Islam. Islam is X, Y, and Z. But the father didn't really take it seriously. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad passes away. And leadership is now transferred to his son, Warithuddin Muhammad. Have you heard this name before? And if what I've been describing to you, I've been describing it to you with the utmost awe and astonishment, what this man does is even more astonishing. Remember, these people don't play around. Right? There are movies about this now. They don't play around. You could be a police officer, law enforcement. If you step out of line with this community, you will get it. And so I put myself in Warithuddin Muhammad's place. What would I do? I'd probably play a slow game. I'd kind of like see what I can do, what seeds I can plant. Nope. Immediately starts telling people what we've been taught is not Islam, this is Islam. That is nothing short of solid courage and commitment. And he is successful in taking a large portion of the Nation of Islam to Sunni Islam, among whom Malcolm X, among whom Siraj Wahhaj. Have you heard that guy? Siraj Wahhaj. He's a very prominent preacher in America. You know, in San Diego, there's Masjid Tawbah. It's a black community that established that, one of the oldest mosques in Southern California. When we look at this history, we as American Muslims, we need to start our experience, the Islamic or the Muslim project, the Muslim presence in America to that. Even though it even predates that. It goes back to the time of slavery. There were Muslims on both sides of the Civil War in the army, forced into that, but nonetheless, right? There were scholars who were brought to America as slaves. Our history, our experience, how we need to understand ourselves as American Muslims does not begin when my father and his brothers came to America in the 70s. That's not when it started. We need to go back to the Roaring 20s, when these very big names decided to take a stand against the systems that were stripping them of their very own dignity. And we need to appreciate how they did it. Again, this isn't a question of replicating their beliefs. It's not that. But rather appreciating their strategies, because they understood something that the American Muslim community today has not fully embraced. They understood the power of culture and how to penetrate that. So in our minds, when we say black as a race, it's a whole package. It's not just a skin color. The power of culture is where we today need to begin to focus. When we talk about your role as American Muslims, some of you, maybe one, maybe a few of you, will take the path of knowledge. That's beautiful. But if that's not your path, then your path, your contribution to Islam needs to be one of enriching the culture. When you look at the strategy of the Nation of Islam, right? They didn't have the sophisticated institutions that we have today. But there were institutions that they did have. Where do blacks most communicate their culture? Sports, music, right? Even in clothing, right? And look how effective it is. Some of these major rappers that we grew up, in their prime time, like Ice Cube and others, you listen to their lyrics, they have Islamic words in them. I mean, these people went to the extent that their names even reflected their culture. So you hear these names, Latifa, Aisha, Laquisha, Rashida. You hear the rhythm? Like their name even represented their commitment. That's power right there. Right there. And it didn't stop in America. I mean, this is a global thing. The power of culture is where we today have a lot to contribute. And I recognize that I'm talking to a primarily what? Latino, Hispanic crowd. And there are others from the Asian, the Far East, and maybe some of our friends from the white community as well. The fact of the matter is, you all have something. Me as an Arab, it's not really that much part of my history. When you look at all of Islamic history, what era, what place, what people presented the height of Islamic culture? Does anyone know? Can anyone take a guess? I'm talking about Islamic history. What group of Muslims, what place represented the height of Islamic culture? Not the Mongols. It was Andalusia. It was the Spanish Muslims, not the Arab Muslims. It was you all, your ancestors, if that's where your roots go back to. It was you all. And look, for those from the Far East, there's a rich culture there as well. You have so much to offer the American Muslim community. I can say things. I can inspire you. I can educate you. I'm not the one who's going to make you look good. It's not me. It's my wife who does it, right? It is you all who can make me look good. Right? It's not the Shaykh who makes you look chic. That's a cool one. But it's you all. And so put your thinking caps on and ask yourself the question, how can I take the richness of my heritage? You all come from very rich heritages. How can I take the richness of my heritage, my experiences as an American, and my values as a Muslim, and produce something interesting? That's creativity right there. You don't need a fancy degree. You need to spend $50,000 in an educational institution. You don't need to travel overseas. What you need to do is embrace your own experiences, enhance your understanding of Islamic values, and present something. Because any civilization is built on certain principles and values. And it is those principles and values that inform our social lives. It informs our technologies, and it also informs our culture. Now, something we all experience is the public bathrooms here, right? We've all been to a public bathroom. If Muslims were to make public bathrooms, would they look the same? What are you bound to see? I'm sorry for this example, but what are you bound to see inside a Muslim-inspired bathroom? I mean, bathrooms have water. Wudu seatings, maybe, right? Maybe the bidets, right? What about those gaps in those stalls, right? You know those gaps in the stalls? When you go in the stall and there's, for whatever, there are gaps, right? Maybe to make it easier for people to peek, just to, see if there's anyone inside. Are those going to be there? Why not? Probably save you money, right? No, it's not that. I'm talking about the gaps in the doors and the, right? That ain't going to be there because we don't like peeking. We like people's privacy when it comes to times of exposing their bodies, right? That's Islamic values. Let's look at fitness. You get the guy who's shredded, who's ripped, and they're trying to inspire you to work out. How is a well-built man going to inspire other men to work out? What is he going to say? But why should you do it? So there's health and what? Just show off. You want to get the ladies, right? You want to get the ladies. You want ladies to be all over you? Do this workout, right? Now, if Muslims get into fitness, what values are driving them to be fit? Health, right? You got to take care of your body. Prophet said you take care of your body. What else? Commitment to what? Discipline, right? Sure. When God talks about men, rijal, men, one of the aspects is that they're committed. They pray their salah on time, they give their zakah, and they're concerned about their place in the afterlife. That's commitment right there, right? How about when somebody starts to, be slick with the ladies? I want to be strong so I can punch that guy, don't I? Because I need to be a guardian of my sisters. And yeah, the sisters are guardians of the men as well. That's the values. Now, I don't mean to put down a group of people or, the experiences of anyone. The idea is we have something to offer the world, as we've offered for many centuries. It's nothing new. And what it means to be powerful is to be able to define your own culture and to influence other people to see your culture as interesting. This isn't you going out and sharing the Quran with people. It is you going out and showing them my way of life is cool. So the black culture, that's pretty cool. Right? There's a book, a really beautiful book called Cool Black, written by a Muslim sister, black lady. She talks about the cultural expressions of the black community. It's cool. And imagine now your kids growing up. We're always worried about our kids, are going to stay Muslim and whatnot. When your kids are growing up and it's cool to be Muslim, are they going to think about anything else? No. You all have the ability, the experience from your own personal heritage, from your own personal ethnicities, to make Islam cool. And no, there's nothing wrong with that. Most of the people who entered Islam over the centuries did not enter Islam because of theological debates. No. Southeast Asia, we're talking about Malaysia, Indonesia, what's now Malaysia, Indonesia, Western Africa, they didn't come into the fold of Islam because people like myself, shuyukh or scholars went and started giving da'wah. Started calling people to Islam. Not to put that down. That's very important, right? They became Muslims because their kings saw a lot of value in being a Muslim because it opens up economic opportunity. And so they accepted Islam. And slowly but surely, their followers began to accept Islam. When they saw Muslim merchants and their honesty, the values that they imbued their business with, their business etiquettes with, they were inspired by that. Now again, da'wah is an integral part of our faith. Calling other people, that is a responsibility of ours. But if you're not educated in that realm, it doesn't mean you don't have a discussion to have. So we need Muslims who can take the Muslim community into the driver's seat when it comes to culture. We need Muslims who invent technologies, because when a Muslim invents technology, they put our values in that technology. They use that technology for our values. We need Muslims in the fashion industry. We need Muslim ladies to make modesty cool, to make it trending, to make these young ladies look at a sister wearing hijab as just cooler than other alternatives. Not to put anyone down, not to make anyone inferior. But this is power right here. And that's our role. That's specifically your role. Once again, I can educate you. I'm not the one who's going to make you look cool. Right? So we need in technology. We need in the fashion industry. And on social media, we're already doing it. It's no joke when people with large followings on social media accept Islam. And you'll find some Muslims come out and say, oh, they're just doing it for clicks and likes and more subscribers because we have a lot of force, a lot of power on social media. Well, imagine back in the day when these kings accepted Islam for economic opportunity. What are we going to say? Oh, no, they're just doing it for economic opportunity. Let's go ahead and shun them. The entire regions became Muslim because of that. And so whether or not these social media influencers accepted Islam for sincere or insincere reasons, their followers don't know that. And so we're seeing tens of thousands of people become Muslim because of these social influencers, right? Yeah, so the sisters bring up an incredibly important point, right? She's saying that, yeah, they accepted it for economic reasons, but on top of that, they were able to sustain it and stay in it because it also made sense. And, she pointed out cleanliness and other things. In other words, like what I'm understanding from her is that people understood that Islam creates high culture. Following Islam enhances culture, enhances standard of living, right? And this is precisely the point. Our brothers and sisters from the Black community, their story is a story of success. Maybe all the goals haven't been reached, but a lot of goals have been. And their experiences should be important to us to understand exactly how we become the contributors of society, how we define ourselves, and how we drive the car. Because if we're not driving, someone else is driving us. If we're not leading, we're following. And the whole point here isn't to create division within society, but rather to contribute to society and offer alternatives that truly resolve a lot of the social ailments that we see today, whether that's racism or mental health issues or divorce and family relationships, the dissolution of the family, the economic subjugation and exploitation, or whatever it might be. You all already have what you need to create a Muslim culture that is cool and that can be seen by broader society as something that creates high culture, right? So we need to encourage ourselves and others, get into fashion, show Islamic values through fashion, through media, through art. Islamic art, by the way, was very big. Through art that shows our values, how the Muslim sees the world, right? And in terms of technology and whatnot. You all can do it. Your cultures have already done it. So now it's about embracing that and sharing it with the world. I'll go ahead and stop here. وصلى ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. We conclude by asking God to send his peace and blessings upon the last and final messenger and upon all you all as well. Thank you.
All right, please give it up for Shaykh Tarik Ata. Shaykh Tarik. Appreciate it as always, man. May Allah reward you and bless you. So let's go ahead and open it up for questions. So if any questions you might have based on the topic or any general questions you'd like to ask, you're most welcome. Just want to raise your hand. I'll come around with the mic and we'll go from there. Those that are streaming online, you can, of course, drop your questions in the comment section as well. Questions? You're that good, man. There's no questions, for sure.
Hi, my name is Neide. I'm Brazilian Muslim. And I'd like to ask you about something that was mentioned by the sister on my side about the pork, to eat pork. I don't know, maybe I still need to learn a lot about Islam. I'm converted to Islam. And I never had answered like in a way that I could be convinced about the question about pork, because there is a lot of people eating pork in the whole world and nothing happened to them. And also because the argument about they was eating their own poop, I think that was happened because they had no option. But if you create them like with other kind of food, they will not eat their poop. So they were treating pork like leaving them. I think if any animal is let incarcerated without food, they will eat. Even human being, probably in the moment they are like crazy, hungry, they could do it in desperation and hungry. And so I would like, if you can, to explain me better that question about why we don't eat pork, and a lot of people eat and nothing happened. And because when people ask me that, I never was able to explain them like reasonable explanation about that. So I would like if you can. Thank you.
Sure. So the Quran, when it describes the consumption of swine, it does say rijis, meaning it is unclean, it is unhealthy. Now, the science behind it, I personally haven't read, but I'm sure there's some research out there by Muslims who really dove into this that maybe I can find and share with you, and then you can share with the group. However, in the meantime, what societies eat the most pork? Asians eat a lot, right? And okay, and then the Western world as well. So, are there any commonalities when it comes to social expressions or behaviors that we see very prominent in these societies? Maybe we can begin to look into that to see, what are these discrepancies, if any. Again, this is an area where I've really dove in and researched to better understand the science behind it, but I'm sure there is already research available. I don't know.
Well, thank you. I search a lot since I became Muslim on internet and trying to learn from other Muslims, but always the explanation was only because Allah said and only because it was dirty or something like that. And I would like to have more information about like scientifically or something.
Sure. I'll
Yeah.
see if I can find anything.
Thank
And I'll
you.
send it to you, inshallah.
If I may, scientifically speaking, the pork is, they don't have sweat glands. So the way that we excrete like any type of toxins, like as humans or any animal, we sweat. And so the sweat contains all of the toxins from your body. That's how you detox. Porks don't have that. So porks don't sweat. All of the toxins and all of the bacteria stays in the body. So that's one of the things scientifically speaking. That's why pork is one of like a dirty animal. And then if you also kind of research a little bit more scientifically, any type of red meat is really hard for your body to digest. It's just because it has a lot of grease. It's just a little bit heavier for your body to process. And even like for people with like diabetes or like high cholesterol, the first thing that they remove from your diet is red meats or pork because it's just really high in like grease and it's really hard for your body to digest. So science behind it, that's what I know.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sister. And you said you had a Brazilian background, correct? Brazilian Muslim background. So same as you're talking about the experiences, just collectively in this room. I mean, we have so many, such a diverse ethnic makeup and background here, which is amazing. So thank you so much. I know even with that question, as you said as well, Sheikh Tarik and our sister, that the short answer, Allah said, don't do it, so we don't do it. Islam means submission to God. If He says do this, we do it. He says don't do it, we don't do it. Full stop. But of course, there's always within the human curiosity trying to find out, why not and so forth. But great question. I appreciate that. Yes, I think I saw a hand on this side. Yes.
Good afternoon again. About your lecture on culture, I think, first of all, thank you for that. I feel like for me, I really needed that today. I think that when we live in the Western world and we're trying to influence the rest of our communities, or friends, family, there's always that line that we're towing because everything, and I mean, not everything, but in general, when it comes to our values and morals in Islam, a lot of things around us are haram, music, fashion. For the ladies, could be seen as like, you're showing too much of this, you're showing too much of that, or music, for example. How do we balance like, for example, let's say I like music, right? Which I could care less about it, but if I did, but it's one of those things where most people resonate with that. So how do you balance not having I don't know if I'm saying my question correctly, but it's just how do you balance that to make sure that you influence the people in the right way and trying to use the same type of language, I guess you could say, that they're.
Oh yeah, definitely. How do you communicate your values in a way or using the words that will quickly be understood by the other, right? That's something with training can happen, right? So I don't see that as being a major hurdle, but a necessary hurdle that we need to go over. Because the last thing we want is to get a fashion line of Muslim clothing that just looks like a sore thumb, in front of people, and they're like, well, why are they dressed that way? I don't understand it. So we want something that resonates in America. It's clearly American, but it's also clearly our values, right? When it comes to maybe navigating some of the haram, a lot of cultural expression today might fall in the realm of haram. What I would say is the following. What's haram is haram, right? What's a red line is a red line. It's never justified. However, as we try to move the community forward, we need to be somewhat tolerant, or I should say, we need to be ready to kind of turn the blind eye while the Muslim community stumbles and gets itself on its feet. So I'll give you an example. When Western Africa was introduced to Islam, it was during the Mali Empire. Now, the Mali Empire then is like the Emirates today. Like money, they literally had gold mines and salt mines, which were like the most valuable thing back then. They had money like nothing, and like the Emirates today. When that society first started to allow Islam into their lifestyles, it really came out as half Islam, half African shamanism, right? So when Muslim travelers would come, you have these people saying, yeah, we're Muslim, and they're practicing like paganism. So what are these people doing? Now, you can imagine this going on today. Imagine country, let's say, the Ivory Coast says, yeah, we are now a Muslim country. And when we go and visit there, we're seeing them like doing very polytheistic things. Well, how is the Muslim community going to react? No, these kafirs and these, no, we have to preserve our religion, right? However, today, Western Africa is one of the most Islamically rich in their Islam parts of the Muslim world. If they were stopped, right, then this would never have happened. The idea is when something is new to a people, you have to give them the space to figure it out, to stumble a little bit, right? And yeah, they got to complete orthodoxy Islam. It didn't happen overnight, but it did happen. I mean, one of the prominent scholars said he traveled there and he said there were women walking around topless. Like the king's daughters would walk around topless and they're saying we're Muslim. And he's absolutely shocked. His brains are blown. Like, what is going on? Right? You have to give people the time to shift from where they were to where they need to be. Right? So as the American Muslim community begins to grow, we have to expect that some of these influencers are not going to do it right immediately. So now you do have Muslims creating fashion lines. And you see, for example, fitness fashion for sisters. And so they have like a long tunic, but they're wearing leggings under. Right? You've seen this? That's not 100% hijab, but it's a start. Like their mind is in the right place. Let them figure it out. Right? And I don't mean we don't say anything. We advise with the utmost love and encouragement. Yeah, man, you're on the right path. Let's see if we could do it this way. Right? So that's what I would say in that regard.
And to that, so using that same example or similar examples, how do you, I guess, deal with criticism from outside where it's like, sometimes it can be overwhelming
Mhm.
where like, you're trying to be a good example, right? You're trying to influence people. I'm not saying me, speaking for someone else. And you're getting all this hate, I guess you could say,
Mhm.
but you're trying to do the right thing. And most people, in my opinion, like for me, I look at it where like I know a specific person and I know their past, for example. And if I look at their past and I compare their past to right now, it's like they're a perfect person, right?
Mhm.
I mean, they're not in comparison, relatively. So how does someone like that deal with, I guess, the criticism and
Yeah. So there's a contemporary example. The example right now. Have you all seen Bassem Youssef's Pierce Morgan interviews and whatnot?
yes.
Yeah, you've seen that guy. How does he do?
Yeah.
He's really good, right?
Yeah.
He's really good. Let me tell you about Bassem Youssef. He's Egyptian, right?
Mhm.
Bassem Youssef is one of the main reasons why the Egyptian president Morsi was toppled. His mother passed away, refusing to talk to him because he screwed up. A lot of Muslims today despise him, but he's doing darn good work for Palestine, right? So what such a person needs to do is to create for themselves a social network that's going to encourage and support him if what he's doing is right, right? People are welcome to despise Bassem Youssef for his past behaviors, right? And he's not in any way a even remotely pious Muslim, right? His language is very off, right? It's very un-Islamic, and. But nobody can deny the impact he has had for Palestine. So he has around him a team who's encouraging him. This is why we, as a Muslim community, every Muslim has something to contribute. And the Southern California community does this the best in terms of our nation, because our community has figured out a way to allow Muslims who are less practicing the ability to contribute to the Muslim community. In other parts of the nation, if a sister isn't wearing hijab, forget it. She's ousted. Forget it. Now here you have, for example, Access California, which is a treasure for our community. It was started and it is run by a sister, a lovely sister, a wonderful sister who doesn't wear hijab. She's Palestinian. Other communities would have ousted her. She would have no place. But they would have lost that. And there are many examples like this, right? So if you find yourself in a situation where you're trying to contribute to the Muslim community in a way that's causing controversy, or maybe your past is something that's constantly being brought up, or you're this, we can't trust you, there are other people who are going to trust you, right? They tend to be the less practicing but well-intending individuals, and there's no shortage of them, right? So you have to have a people around you. Now, again, I need to reiterate, what is forbidden is forbidden, right? In Islam, we rarely adopt the method of the ends justify the means. We rarely adopt it, right? The idea is we are in a time that is chaotic. We are in a time where we don't have everything organized. We don't have everything in place. There are a lot of Muslims who have a lot to contribute. Nobody's perfect, and we are in a very, very imperfect world. We are in a world that promotes faithlessness, not faith. We're in a world that promotes promiscuity, not modesty. We are in a world that promotes, you know, the haram, the forbidden, and makes the permissible very difficult. But we need to tackle these things and allow the community a little bit of space, a little bit of breathing room to trip and fall so that we get ourselves on our feet, right?
Well, thank you so much, Sheikh Tarik. We have maybe time for one more question. If anybody, Sister Lisa.
Assalamu alaikum.
Can
So recently, regarding your topic,
you put the mic closer?
sorry, can you hear me?
Raise your voice a little bit.
Sorry, can you hear me? Oh, okay. Hi. So recently I was traveling with like two friends, and they're not Muslim. So but we were traveling through like Morocco and Andalusia. So they got to see a lot of like uh Islamic like cultural like different aspects of like Islamic life. So I feel like I kind of spent a lot of time kind of explaining things and thinking about not so much like how to make Islam cool, but like kind of to try to show how cool Islam already is and how beautiful it is, which I feel like you always do so well. Um, so like some things that like really impressed them and that I feel like our culture could benefit from would be like, for example, like hygiene when they learned about like all the hygiene of Islam, the clothes, like the fashion, like seeing all the like modest clothes to the point that like when we visited like the Hassan II mosque, they were excited to try wearing hijabs, which I was like was really nice. Um, they were really impressed by like everyone's conduct, like so like in Morocco, like everyone was very hospitable, very generous, very kind, very respectful to us. Like that was our experience. I think they were also impressed with the food. So like regarding like halal food, I was explaining like that when the animals are slaughtered, like they don't see their friends die, right?
Mhm.
So like the animal being slaughtered won't be seen by the other animals. So like they really like that. That like super impressed them. I mean also like the food is just really really good. Um, I think also like dating, they were really impressed by that. Because they're so used to like American dating like hookup culture. So when they were learning about like the rights of women in Islam, I think that also really impressed them. So I think there's so many ways that like Islam is already super super cool, super beautiful. So just like when I think when people learn about that, that's how it can be more cool.
Yeah. So take for example the whole halal, right? If you were to, just think about it for a second. If a Muslim were to present the concept of halal to the American audience, well, how are they going to present it? Well, let's ask the question: how can we make this cool for the people? When you start to highlight the fact that the animal is slaughtered in the most humane way, in the most peaceful way, isn't that going to resonate with a large amount of Americans, especially those who are more on the left, those who are younger? Now imagine when they're entering a shop and they see the halal symbol. Oh, we want to eat there. They're not even Muslim, right? The idea it's cool. Or for those who are in fitness, you know, Smoke and Fire, the the restaurant. Yeah, there's a restaurant here in Anaheim, Craft, by Smoke and Fire. You don't know it? Well, it's a good restaurant. You got it. The owner is a non-Muslim. He has 3 branches: the one here in Anaheim, one in La Brea, and one somewhere else. He's a non-Muslim. He only gets halal meats. So Sheikh Ahmed Billo asked him, like, why do you do that? He said, we notice it's cleaner, it's tastier, higher quality. Those who want fine dining, quality food is halal. You equate halal with quality food. You equate halal with better health. You equate halal with, animal rights. Now people are, oh, that's halal. I want to eat there, right? So you have that. Andalusia. Who's been to Spectrum Mall? Spectrum Mall, Irvine. You been there? You have ever noticed the architecture? Do you know where that's coming from? No, that's Andalusian. Moroccan and Andalusian. Andalusian, Moroccan. It's a mixture, which is they're right next to each other, right? It's kind of the same thing. Now, when I had a cousin come from out of state, I took him there. He said, this mall is the coolest mall ever. It's an experience. It's not just a mall. I mean, even if you don't want to shop, going there is just fun. Because it's an experience. It looks nice. It's beautiful. And most people probably don't know that this is coming from us. It's coming from you all, even more so. Right? The Spanish community. It's coming from you. Your ancestors built that. Your culture built that. Right? Everybody wants to go to Spectrum Mall. It's probably the coolest mall in all of America. Right? This is what I'm talking about.
So we're all going to go to this restaurant. Our next event, I think we're all going. I had no clue. I had
Yeah,
no
you know
idea.
it?
Wow,
Yeah.
we have to. We definitely have to consider it for all of us, inshallah. So, all right, that brings us to the tail end of our conversation. Please give it up for our dear Sheikh Tariq Ata. Thank you again,
Thank
Sheikh
you so
Tariq.
much.
Almost an hour straight, man. Really appreciate it. May Allah reward you and bless you. And thank you all very much for taking time out and joining in this session. As I can't express to you how important, of course, these programs are, these sessions are. So thank you very much for joining here today. A few announcements. Just hang tight with me, and then we'll call it a session. First, just want to say thank you so much to brother Moeen. Moeen was translating today. As you know, we like to do our best week in and week out to have the translating there for our brothers and sisters that are more comfortable in the Spanish language. Please forgive us this past Friday. We weren't able to simply because after open mosque day, we forgot to charge some of the devices. And so I don't think they were ready. And so one thing to another thing. So we didn't have it on Friday. For those that were here, my sincere apologies. But thank you so much, Brother Moeen. Number two, on that note, just wanted to thank everyone for open mosque day. Literally, it's been a week already. Can you imagine how fast it goes? A week already. Last Sunday, we were blessed. This whole place was packed. We had a great attendance. We had 60 plus volunteers helping. So many of you are here right now. Thank you very much for sacrificing that Sunday. I know there's a recovery probably up until now. We're all still trying to recover, but thank you very much. And on that day as well, we're blessed. We had 2 people that became Muslim during open mosque day. So it was amazing. Alhamdulillah. And I'm sure, Sheikh Tariq, your open mosque day went great as well. And also, many different mosques did it that weekend, but also sometimes outside of that weekend as well, people are doing open mosque day. The Irvine Mosque actually did it yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, Saturday. So I'm very happy to see that as well. And again, this should be something that for all of our communities, as best as we can, to make it as consistent as possible, because so many people are interested in Islam. To Sheikh Tariq's point as well about the curiosity. That's the second thing. Number 3, once we finish here, I would encourage you all, even if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes, make sure to take the doors that we have here outside in the back. We have a health fair going on right now till about 4 or 5 p.m. So for sisters, for women 40 and over, they have free mammograms. I think there's like the first 50 or so. So if you'd like to get tested, you're most welcome. Of course, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so we want to make sure we're doing our best to educate. A lot of I think there's free food out there. There's medical staff out there. Everything is free at health fair. So if you want to get checked out and all that good stuff, counseling, all that good stuff is out there. So please make sure to go, just check it out. They have some free resources out there as well. That'll be really good. Next, we have our fall barbecue coming up on Thursday. The youth department of the mosque is putting that on this coming Thursday. So registration is mandatory. So please make sure to register. It's good for you and your kids to come out and to be in a good mosque, to be in a mosque in a good space on that Thursday night as well. But registration is mandatory, simply so they know how much food to order and kind of get that organized as well. And I did send that out on the WhatsApp groups, so please make sure to see that as well. Lastly, we still keep encouraging everyone to take some time out to volunteer. At times, it's only 1 or 2 people helping out in our weekly classes, and that's taking some of our volunteers maybe 30, 45 minutes to an hour, simply because they have to do it sometimes by themselves. So again, please, brothers and sisters, help us out. These classes, we want to make sure that the classes are there for all of us, and therefore I ask you all to please make sure at least once every few weeks, if not every week, just to offer 10, 20 minutes to help us out, whether it's here in the kitchen and so forth. So please make sure that you do that. We do need help in the kitchen today. So if I can get 2 to 3 volunteers to help us out, that'll be great. And then lastly, we're blessed. We have a number of people joining us here for the first time for our Sunday class. So I just wanted to recognize them. And this is like a highlight for me. Like when we have guests that are joining us for the first time and they found the course or they found the mosque or they were referred here, and I want to really appreciate that. So number 1, I want to acknowledge our brother Simon. Brother Simon, if you can just raise your hand. This is brother Simon's first time here in our Sunday class. He came on Friday. Brother Simon is actually 2 days old. What I mean by that, he became Muslim. He took his Shahada on Friday, right? And what's even more beautiful, as it is for everyone, Brother Simon has a Palestinian Christian background, and he was raised in Lebanon, and he's been around Muslims and just seeing the good work that Muslims do, just genuine people. One of the Muslim brothers from our community that he knows really well, he brought him here, right? And then all of his kids go here, and alhamdulillah, all thanks to Allah. So, Brother Simon, welcome to the community. It's an honor and privilege, and thank you very much. Number 2, Alejandro. Alejandro's right in front of me. You can raise your hand, Alejandro. It's Alejandro's first time to our class here. He actually was here last week in Open Mosque. That was your first time, right, Alejandro? Open Mosque. So we connected, and Alejandro embraced Islam. You said, I think, 2 years ago, correct? 2 years ago. So welcome to the community. Sister Hind was here. She had to leave a little bit early, but she was informed about the class. So it was her first time coming as well. And I think she knows some people that might be interested in Islam. So she just wanted to come and check things out. So we're very happy for that. Next, Jennifer. Jennifer, you can just raise your hand. This is Jennifer's first time. She's on the journey to learn more about Islam. She's getting closer and closer. I had the honor of meeting Jennifer maybe a few weeks back during the Friday sermon, the Jummah, here in the lobby. So Jennifer, honor to have you here with us. Thank you so much. I'm going to get the name wrong. Please forgive me. Elidia. I get it right? Elidia. Elidia, if you can just raise your hand. This is Elidia's first time in class as well. She's also on the journey to learn more about Islam. So she's part of Cal State Fullerton, and she's been around the MSA and the students there, and they're referred over here, which is an honor. And then lastly, Miss Wilson is here. Miss Wilson, if you can just raise your hand. Miss Wilson is also on the journey. We had to honor her husband actually came about maybe a month ago. Had the honor. We sat down maybe for a good hour talking about the basics of Islam. They also come from a Christian background, and they're exploring other options in terms of faith, if I'm not mistaken. And Islam really stood out to them. So it's an honor to have them here with us. So can you imagine how blessed we are? Just this small, intimate group here, and how the rich diversity that we have here as well. So may Allah bless you. May God bless each and every one of you. Again, please don't forget on your way out to check out the health fair as well. And then if I can ask everyone to help me out, we do have to put the tables and chairs away. We have racks. At least we have one rack here. The tables will go on the racks. Same thing with the chairs. Let's make sure that we just don't overflow on the chairs there as well. So thank you all very much. Extra food is here. Drinks, please make sure to take something home for like a midnight snack. And Shaykh Tarik, as always, may Allah reward you and bless you. Thank you all very much. Please make sure to connect with our guests that are here for the first time. Please exchange your phone number, get to know them, and help them out. Assalamu alaikum to Allah.